Well, as promised, just me being here in a video instead of in the flesh. You're welcome. You are welcome. All right, so you just got done taking notes. You should be done through page 3, and you saw some examples about speed and velocity. Now, the only thing, speed and velocity get easily confused. Speed and velocity are the same thing, except velocity is a direction. So when you are asked to calculate velocity, you are calculating speed. You're just going to add a direction. You have a formula sheet, and it's probably one of the second or third papers that you picked up that day that we picked up papers. And that sheet we will just be adding to for all of the formulas that we are going to use in the physics unit. So the first formula that I want you to add to your formula sheet is the speed formula. And I'm going to put it on this page, but it's also on the board. And this is a handy dandy little triangle that we can use in order to rearrange all of our variables. So if you're watching what I'm doing here, or you can copy it on the screen, you're going to set up a triangle. Distance is going to be up top. Speed and time are going to be on the bottom. Now, this line represents multiplication. This line represents division. So if you are solving for speed, just put your little finger over the S, and what's left? Distance divided by time. If you're solving for distance, put your thumb over the D. What's left? Speed times time. If you're solving for time, what's left? Distance divided by speed. Now, when I do these problems, not only am I looking for numbers, but I'm also looking for a label. So we know that distance is measured in feet, kilometer, miles, meters. Speed is what's called a derived unit, and speed can be measured in meters per second because the derivation is a unit of time, right? So speed is whatever distance over whatever amount of time. So kilometers per hour, meters per second, miles per hour. These are all derived units. And time, seconds, hours, minutes. So I'm going to use this triangle in order to kind of help you solve these problems, these practice problems. Also, when you're doing these problems, there are 4 things you need for every physics problem. They are equation, number substitution, answer, and unit. So I'm going to model that, and my expectation is when you do your practice problems that you are also going to have all 4 things in order to get all 4 points of the equation. All right, so a girl is training to run a 5K, which is 3.1 miles. If she runs a trial race in 0.5 hours, what is her average speed? So what are they asking me for? Speed. What is the equation for speed? Speed equals distance divided by time. Now, instead of just looking for numbers, I'm going to pay attention to the units as well. So she's running a 5K, and she's going to run it in 0.5 hours. So the unit that I am going to use will be a derived unit of kilometers per hour. So my unit, kilometers per hour. So this is the equation. That's 1 point. This is what's called number substitution. Then you're just going to punch it into your calculator, and 5 divided by 0.5 is 10 kilometers per hour. This is 1 point because it's the answer. This is 1 point for the correct unit. Now, could you do this in miles per hour if it makes more sense to you? Absolutely. That would be just fine. This would be 3.1 divided by 0.5, and you would get 6.2 miles per hour. So that kind of, maybe the miles per hour gives you a better inkling of how fast they're actually traveling. Okay. An elevator at a museum can travel 210 meters upwards in 35 seconds. What's the elevator's velocity? Velocity and speed are the same thing. Velocity just includes a direction. So we're going to start with speed is equal to distance divided by time, because that's what velocity is equal to too. The distance is 210 meters, and I'm going to divide that by 35 seconds. So my unit is going to be meters per second. Then I'm going to do the math. 210 divided by 35 is 6 meters per second. Now, that's at speed. Because I want velocity, I'm just going to add upward. How far does a car travel in 0.75 hours if it's moving at a constant speed of 45 miles per hour? Well, now we don't want speed. We want how far. How far is distance? The equation for distance, if I just cover up the D right here, what is left? Speed times time. So distance equals speed times time. What is my speed? 45 miles per hour times 0.75 hours. Now, my common units here, if I were doing just this dimensional analysis, I would be able to cross off my hours, and I would be left with miles, which means that's my unit, miles. And it looks like 45 times 0.75 is 33.75 miles. For the record, if you would go to the nearest hundredth when you're rounding, so 10th, 100th place, that's probably about as precise as we're going to get. All right, if a motorcycle is moving at a constant speed down the highway of 40 kilometers per hour, how long would it take the motorcycle to travel 10 kilometers? Well, how long, they're asking me for time. So now I go back to my triangle, and if I cover up the time, what am I left with? Distance divided by speed. So time equals distance divided by speed. What is the distance? 10 kilometers. What is the speed that they were traveling? 40 kilometers per hour. Now, I've got common units here, kilometers, kilometers. What am I left with? Hours, which is a unit of time. So when I take 10 divided by 40, I get 0.25 hours, which would be about 15 minutes. Okay, so that's the practice. Now, your assignment is to go to your activity packet and go to page 7. And page 7 has some practice problems. Make sure to show all your work to receive credit. You're not going to need a separate piece of paper. Remember that velocity is speed in a direction. I'm just going to show you what you're going to need to do for all 4 points here. I think you can do speed. This one is asking for speed. This one's asking for velocity, which is speed in a direction. Here's your direction. This one is asking how far it will travel. Is that speed, distance, or time? What is the velocity? Which means You're going to have to figure out the direction that you have to travel from New York to California. A school bus moves at a speed. How long will it take? How long indicates that they are asking you for time. So let's just look at that one real quick. Look at the triangle. If they're asking you for time, time is equal to distance divided by speed. That's 1 point. The next point is going to be number substitution. What's the distance? 20 miles. What's the speed? 35 miles per hour. Now, I can cross these off. These are my common units. Miles, miles. What am I left with? Hours. Again, that's good because hours is a unit of time. And then when I take 20 divided by 35, you should get 0.57. So 0.57 hours. Okay, your assignment then is to finish these problems. Good luck. Actually, I forgot. If you get done, the key is on my desk and you can check your answers just to see if you're right. We'll be doing some more practice problems on Monday, but also a lab. So make sure you know what you're doing by the time you get back here on Monday.